Welcome to DC Fandom. My name is Ben Abernathy, Batman Group Editor here at DC. Thank you for joining us to talk about it in an exciting event in our Bat family of titles, Batman the Joker War. I would like to introduce you to some of the awesome talent associated with this event, but it's already underway. So be sure to check out Batman 95 through 97, which are already in stores and on digital now. Any great structure starts with good architects, and in the same way, Joker War is no exception. I'd like to introduce you to two of our architects for this event, Batman writer James Tynion IV and Batman lead artist Jorge Jiménez. James, Jorge, welcome to Fandom.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Hello to everyone.
James, let's start with you. When did it click for you that this storyline was really gaining momentum?
Oh boy. Honestly, that's such a good question. It's something that I've been excited about now really since the end of last year. That's when we had a meeting where we started laying out all of the pieces where the storyline, their Dark Designs, was going to lead into a very big Joker story. And we knew sort of the key pieces that would set that story up, namely that Bruce Wayne was going to lose his fortune and we would basically have a billionaire Joker raining hell down on Gotham City. So that was like, I was always excited about those pieces. But the real moment that I really was like, okay, this is going to be something special, was honestly the moment that I saw Jorge's design for Punchline. And that was the moment where it's just like, okay, we have something really, really unique, really interesting that is going to add an extra spice to this Joker story and give us something really unique, something that's going to stand out on the stands. And that's really the exciting thing. Is I've been working on Batman books for 8 years now, and getting a chance to do something where I feel like we're doing something new and exciting, and bringing a new energy and a new spirit into the Batman line, and telling a story that couldn't have been told before. So Punchline's a big part of that. Clown Hunter's a big part of that. I'm sure we'll touch base on some of that, but those were the moments. That was a moment of like, yes, we've got fire here.
Yeah, I remember that. It was amazing. Jorge, what did you think when James and I approached you about drawing this series?
Oh man, that was amazing. I was really excited because Batman is obviously my favorite character, with Superman, of course. But it's the first time doing the Batman series to me. And in Joker War, it's really difficult because it's Batman, a lot of great artists working here. And it's difficult to me to understand that. But I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to show my face to everyone.
Awesome. Now, Jorge, as James had mentioned, a big part of your work with James so far on Batman has resulted in some great new characters like the Designer, Punchline, and Clown Hunter. Tell us about the freedom you were given to create these new characters.
I always love to design new characters, but this time I think this special because, for example, with Clown Hunter, it's like my own style. Before comics, before I was a professional, I did a manga style with this aesthetic. James told me, "Man, you are free, more or less like this, but you are free." And it was amazing to me, and I can do my own style for the future of Batman. This character, this is amazing to me. But with Punchline was really crazy. In 2 days, in 3 days, everyone drawing Punchline, the cosplayers, the girls with the costumes. Before of comic books, it's boom. And yes, as an artist, is very, very incredible. Yeah.
And James, speaking of Punchline, now she's a significant player in Joker War. Now, how did you create the character, knowing that fans were so familiar and invested with Harley Quinn?
Well, it started as a very, very simple problem to solve in terms of the story. In the last two big runs on Batman, Tom King's run and Scott Snyder's run, they both played with the Joker as a character, but he was always a very solitary character. And I knew that one of the things that I wanted to bring to the Joker is the idea of a whole Joker gang and the idea of the Joker ideology. and how it builds around him. How do the people surrounding the Joker act? And so I knew I wanted there to be a Joker gang, and I knew that meant that Joker needed a number 2 to help him actually tell all of his lieutenants, okay, go out there into the world and you go do this, you go do that. Joker's not going to deal with the fine print there. He's going to delegate that work. So I knew we needed a character who was going to be a part of that. And around the same time, we also made the decision that Harley Quinn was going to play a part in their Dark Design storyline. So it was like, okay, so not only do I need to create a new number 2 character, but his old number 2 is now going to be a part of the story. And seeing those two things together, it's like, okay, that means that I have to create a character that is diametrically opposed to Harley Quinn, and a character that really helps define the balance. So those were the pieces that were sort of in my mind and led to me. I think it was just through texts a few times with Ben, where it was just like, what if we create this like new character, his top henchman, and create kind of the anti-Harley Quinn, and through some texts, and then through throwing, like, I threw the kitchen sink of all of the different ideas that we were throwing back and forth, and then Jorge came back with this amazing design, and just seeing the energy of it was really, especially because at that point Jorge was still working on Justice League. He hadn't started drawing the actual pages of Batman yet. So it was the first real taste of like, oh wow, this is the spirit of the book, and this is what I want to, like, I want to take all of that energy, and I want to make this an entire storyline that plays off of the energy of these sorts of new characters. And then seeing that also made me realize I had the idea of Clown Hunter as a character, and Clown Hunter was a character that I thought that would be a character that came out of the aftermath of Joker War. It was in the back of my head there, and it wasn't really a fully formed thought, but then I realized, like, oh wow, like, people are really reacting to Punchline. I want to rebuild this part of Joker War to give a voice to the people on the streets of Gotham. And so Clown Hunter became the voice of that, and being able to instill that voice with that kind of manga spirit that, manga is, I think, a huge influence on Jorge and a huge influence on myself growing up, and being able to bring those influences together and really explore them in a Batman story, not only a Batman story that pits him against his top adversary, who's a billionaire now. Like, it was just really exciting.
Totally agree. And before we move on, last week we announced plans for a November one-shot featuring Punchline. It's her first standalone title. James, what can you tease for people about that book?
Oh, we're really excited about that one-shot, and this is something that we are going to be able to. We're going to start unpacking how Punchline became Punchline. We saw a brief hint of that in the Joker 80th anniversary special, but this story is going to not only unpack how that journey happened, but also unpack what her story is going to be moving forward. Because this is something that I know when people hear about new characters being introduced to DC, are they going to just sort of come in and then disappear? But the most important thing, like the number one thing that I really want to say to everyone, is these characters are built to stay and last in the DC universe. And we are very excited. And we are now setting the groundwork for the stories that we're not only going to be telling through the end of this year, but all of next year. And I know Jorge and I are really excited to bring you more Batman.
It's very excited. Jorge, thank you so much for joining us today. Anything else you want to share with the fans that are watching?
Oh yes, if you are a Batman fan, you need to read the Joker War, because first of all, James Tynion is the boss. He knows perfectly the character, and this is great. It's great. The script is awesome. It's dynamic. It's crazy. And for my part, I think that this is my best work so far. I have been working in DC Comics a lot of years. I did Super Sons. I did Justice League. But now I feel that this is best. And just hope you like it, and I'm very, very excited and looking forward to show you, friends.
Very, very excited. Thanks again, Jorge. Next up, I would like you to meet some of the other talented voices contributing to the Joker War and the other Bat family titles. Batgirl writer Cecil Castellucci and Nightwing writer Dan Jurgens. Welcome,
Hello.
Cecil. Welcome, Dan.
Hi.
Hi.
Now, Cecil, what was your initial reaction to being asked to contribute to Joker War?
Well, I mean, it's always fun to be in the Bat family, and I love like a sort of tight-knit crossover event, because they're so involved in each other's lives that it's sort of essential. And I think Joker is kind of the villain, and especially for Batgirl, they definitely have a fraught history, and so it was a real honor and real thrill, but complicated.
Right. And speaking of that history, can you talk a little bit about your Batgirl tie-in issues and Barbara's response to the events of the Killing Joke?
So I knew that I was going to be in the Joker War and that Batgirl was going to be in the Joker War. And I wasn't quite sure what that meant yet. Didn't have the full picture from James at that time. But I was given a cover, and the cover was the Joker with flowers knocking on Barbara's door. And I thought, oh dear, and I really thought about it, and I thought, maybe this is an opportunity for us to revisit that moment and have Barbara, Batgirl, be in a different place, having dealt with her trauma from him, and to be able to sort of be a response to the Killing Joke, sort of turning the tables on it. Joker is still doing his thing, and he's gonna take over the way that he does, But it was a real opportunity for us to sort of address the wrong that had been done to Barbara in the Killing Joke. So Jessica Chen, my editor, and I had a long talk about it, and Robbie Rodriguez, who is the artist, where we really wanted to echo some of the images that happen in the Killing Joke, but sort of turn it on its head a little bit. So it was complicated, but I was really glad to be able to give Barbara a voice, against the Joker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very cool to hear how you guys worked up that concept, especially around that sort of cover image. And so the idea then really was yours that led to that story, Batgirl 47.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, that's not usually the way that, I do things. I don't usually look at the cover and say, okay, here's what the story is. But it really felt like in this particular case, like it had to be addressed.
Right. Like it almost seems like if Batgirl was going to be part of Joker War, this was the only story that could really have been told, right?
Absolutely. 100%. And I feel like, Batgirl has been, confronted by the Joker before. They've had their, reunions, but there's still always that core wound that Batgirl has from the Joker. And in my view, it had never really been fully addressed where she kind of named her trauma and confronted it full on and had the opportunity to confront her abuser in a sense. So I felt like hope that we got to do that. So thank you, James, for the Joker War to be able to get Barbara to this hopefully new place with her trauma.
Thank you, Cecil. Now, Dan, as if Nightwing didn't have enough to deal with having his own identity crisis, we throw in the Joker and Punchline into the mix too. How much can this poor kid take?
Fortunately, Richard Grayson is capable of taking quite a lot. And you notice that I called him Richard. As everybody knows, when Nightwing was shot in Batman 55, he developed amnesia as a result of his head wound and has spent the last bunch of months not knowing really about his past. People have explained his past to him, but he doesn't have the memory. And what we have since found out is a lot of that has been part of the plot of the Court of Owls, who were all involved in trying to turn him into a Talon. Since then, we've been looking at how do we get Rick Grayson back to being Dick Grayson. And that's where the Joker War has played this really important part, because once it became evident that James had come up with the idea that the Joker knows not just Batman's secret identity, but everyone's, that became a nice little thing we could play with, where that could become part of the catalyst. Only the problem for Nightwing has been that the Joker got a hold of the memory crystal that the Court of Owls had been using on Rick and has since used that to turn him into his own puppet. And that happens without the rest of the Bat family being aware of it, and certainly gives us that moment of betrayal in which it looks as though Rick is turning on the rest of the Bat family.
It's impressive how well, like, seamlessly the story worked in, because Nightwing was one of the earliest titles to start featuring the Joker. Now, how was it to work with James in sort of weaving the Joker into Nightwing's backstory so early on?
I think it's worked out really well. James and I have actually worked together a couple of times before on things, so we already had a bit of a relationship in trying to figure out how these things were going to weave. And I think we managed to do a really good job of stitching in where Rick was able to get his moments that he needed. And then moving into the Batman title, Bruce gets the moments that he needs to kind of bring these two guys back together as we work through the story. So you add a little bit of the Joker to that, add a little bit of the punchline to that, and then add all the other craziness that we have going in the Bat books, as well as Batgirl's role, because Barbara has had this long relationship with Dick that is also really important to what happens here. And I think it makes for a really good, powerful story.
Totally agree. Very, very exciting. Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
As Joker War developed, we quickly found we had more stories to tell than our monthly books had room for. We pitched the idea of an oversized anthology telling stories of our heroes and villains who might not be front and center in Joker War. And so the Batman, the Joker War Zone was born, and it goes on sale September 29th. We have a tremendous list of contributors like our Batman writer James Tynion IV, the Flash writer Joshua Williamson, amazing artists like Guillaume March and David Lafuente, and more. I'm very excited that the Batman, the Joker War Zone will feature a short story from Oscar award-winning writer John Ridley, and he's joining us today to tease a little more of what the story is all about. Welcome, John.
Ben, how are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to Fandom.
Thank you. I got to be honest. It's genuinely pretty amazing to be here. I just want to say very quickly to all the fans who are out there watching, I hope everybody everywhere is doing well. You're staying healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically. I hope, even if just for a little bit today, we can take your mind off of the world and really dive into a story and a story arc that I've been so pleased and blessed to be part of.
I couldn't agree more, John. And now let me get your honest reaction. When I first pitched you the idea of writing a short story for this book and as a part of the larger Joker War storyline, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, honestly, my initial thought, Ben, honestly, was fear. You and I think just to take a minute to kind of talk about our relationship, about 12 years ago, when you were working at Wildstorm, you were very gracious to literally invite me into the world of writing for graphic novels. And, we did a one-shot with the Authority. We did a really bizarre Warblade. And then we did a book that was, personally for me, it was really something, the American way. So I had some experience writing, but, there were small things and one-shots and things that were very personal. To get, 12 years later, when I really haven't done a lot of graphic novel writing, being brought into this massive, multi-part, multi-perspective story that was really going to upend, Batman's universe. And truly, there are phraseologies all the time that get used around writing. Oh, this is going to change everything. This is going to change the world. But this really did change the dynamic of Batman. Because forever, Batman was the hero, didn't have superpowers, was not invulnerable. And there's even a joke in the Justice League film. What's your superpower anyway? Well, I'm rich. But what happens when you take that money away? What happens when you give the very thing that, besides his mind and body and spirit that he's trained, the other thing that he has, and you give it to the other side, unlimited funds, unlimited resources, it really does change the equation. So to not really have been in Batman's world, to be among some of the fantastic writers and artists that you mentioned, and to say, hey, we want you to write a story that really tells part of what's going on in this fabric, in this war, in this world. And we want it to be about a very specific character, one character that has been with Batman now for years. It was Alfred and it was Lucius. Those were his two right-hand people. Honestly, I would be lying if I didn't say it was anxiety, it was fear, it was trepidation. But you get over that and you say, this is an amazing opportunity. How could I not be part of this?
And did you find there were any real challenges in sort of getting caught up with what was going on within the Joker War? Or did you find, were there any guidelines or constraints that you found in the story you wanted to tell?
Well, I mean, the great thing, honestly, about the Joker War is that it's a story that moves with a very particular emotional velocity. So, Batman has obviously been around forever. There are these resets, there are these reboots that offer a new audience a place to come into the story. But this is one of those stories that takes kind of everything that most people kind of know about Batman, know about the world, even if you don't know the specifics. And it's like, just, jump on board. This is like a streetcar in San Francisco. It doesn't really stop for you. It slows down, it lets you get on, and then you're part of the ride. So for me, it was, there was no issues figuratively or literally about getting into the story. And yes, there's some characters that were kind of new to me, punchline, things like that. But once you're in it, I mean, you get it. The tables have turned. Joker's got all the power. Batman's trying to figure out, can I really do, all that training, I've had all these toys, I've had all these things, but can I do it on my own? No, there weren't really any barriers of entry as a writer. It was just about understanding what's going on. And then, and we'll probably talk about this, pivoting towards that Lucius character and saying, okay, well, now here's this opportunity to really excavate and what's going on concurrently, simultaneously, while you've got these battles over here. It's like telling the story of the home front during World War II. You've got these folks battling, but there are other folks who have to deal with it, who have to figure out, where do we fit in when we don't have control over this situation.
And you mentioned Lucius Fox, and what can you tell us, folks tuning in, about the story? It's about Lucius and superstar artist Olivia Copiel, who you're collaborating with. Can you tell us a little more detail about the story, but please no spoilers?
Well, it's hard. There's certain, obviously, things you can talk about, certain things I don't want to spoil for anyone. But one of the things that was really, interesting for me is because even though I had not written a lot in the graphic novel space, they had been longer form. And so this is a short story, and you really have to get at it. You really got to go. So it's minimalist in its approach. It has a drive. The artwork is just stunning. And the thing, I've certainly written enough in the graphic novel space that sometimes, the art in the story, it's like speed dating. You got to come in, you get who you get, you partner with who you partner with, and you make the best of it. This was not that situation. The art came back and it was just, this is beautiful. The emotion is there. Everything is there. The other thing that I really appreciate about this is that this story in particular is really about the Fox family. And for me, at my age right now, there are a lot of things that I really relate to in terms of Lucius, not certainly, being a, multi-millionaire who's working for, Bruce Wayne, who's the Batman, but as a parent, as someone who's concerned about his partner in life and his kids. And being a parent is so often about trying to engineer appropriate outcomes for your children. And even though as a parent you think sometimes what you want is the right thing, you have a family or kids who are coming into their own and saying, well, no, that maybe isn't the way we should do things. And you're not looking at the world the way we look at the world. So even though that this is a short story that's very propulsive and really tries to get to its point and allow for some, action and beautiful imagery, all those things that fans really want, there is an opportunity to look at this family in a very particular moment when their lives are changing. Something is happening in this story that is going to set them in a completely new direction, but not just, and I don't say this with disrespect to Bruce Wayne, because that's the way his life was set up. He has no family. He has an extended family, but much of his agency is derived from not having to depend on anybody else. I don't have to have any fear. I don't have to have any worry, because it's all about me. Lucius is going into this situation where he really does have to consider, rightly or wrongly, whatever his point of view is, how is this going to affect my family? How is this going to affect my world? Particularly, and again, without giving anything away, something that happens in the Joker War directly that does really affect him. And having to travel through that and for the reader to have to figure out, is the person talking right now, is that really the true Lucius, or is he still dealing with some trauma from some of the things that went on in the Joker War?
Well, as a fan and your editor on this story, I am really excited for people to check it out. And I sincerely hope that we see you write more about Lucius and his family, because the story itself is impactful and beautiful, and it's important, and it's a cornerstone of this entire anthology that we put together. So I really appreciate you being involved. And in fact, thank you for taking the time today to join us for Fandom. And people out there tuning in, please check out Batman, the Joker War Zone when it hits comic book stores and digital retailers on Tuesday, September 29th. Thank you again, John.
Thank you, Ben. I do really appreciate it.
So this concludes our Batman, the Joker War panel. I hope you enjoyed it, and will immediately head to your nearest open and operating comic book store or digital retailer to get your copies of Batman, Batgirl, Nightwing, and all the other Batman family titles, and to be sure to check out the Batman, the Joker War. Thank you to our guests, James Tynion IV, Jorge Jiménez, Cecil Castellucci, and Dan Jurgens. And thank you for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of DC Fandom.